Haunting you. Dutchman versus New X-Files.
Hello. There was supposed to have been a bit here where I got a friend who used to love watching the X-Files to ring me and then chastise me for not getting what the X-Files was, because apparently I've misjudged this series somewhat, at least according to my tastes. I had been let known, mind you, that the X-Files wasn't always necessarily a good series. The overarching plot was very often bunk. The individual episodes were usually the better ones. So, for every village of autistic vampires, people shoving themselves through doggy doors, and incestuous incestuous cannibals. Basically, I don't even need to say anything more than that. I remember that being very creepy and legit, like, so he's not only the father but he's also the brother. It must have been great at board games, things like that. Season number thingy 10 of X-Files, which got a new season this year. Like I said, the opening episode, My Struggle, was an info dump. It basically has to bring everybody up to speed with what 10 years of X-Files was like. And I really legitimately liked the second episode, which I'm going to be cheating like all fuck right now, because I'm usually the worst when it comes to these kind of things, right? As if I could forget. The third episode shook me awake, to say the least. I've heard that the writer of this episode has done several comedic episodes of the X-Files in the past, and I've been led to believe this is a scorcher. Like, terrific, fantastic, incredibly witty. I absolutely hated this episode. It's even called Mulder and Scully Meet the Were-Monster. So, if you haven't watched this episode, or you have watched this episode, you'll feel free to disagree with me, by all means. I'm not saying my opinion is better than yours, but I couldn't stand this. Imagine the worst episode of Buffy, and if you like Buffy, that's good. I've watched Buffy for a bit. It's just that it felt like a bad Buffy episode. Not like Buffy in general, just a bad Buffy episode. So there's a monster killing people in this small town, and it turns out to be like a lizard thing with spikes, and it spits blood, and it looks kind of creepy for Buffy prosthetics. Again, not slamming Buffy. Turns out that the monster that we've seen is a were-monster, but then into the opposite direction. From a plot from Rescue Rangers comes the monster or the animal turning into a man and wanting to do human being things. This lizard monster becomes a somewhat pudgy Australian man who needs like wanting to find a mortgage, getting a job, and I just couldn't stand this. The voice actor for Rhinox was in this as a therapist, and he was funny, but then we get painful things like the lizard monster running around in his skivvies like tighty whities. transgendered prostitute slamming him with a handbag, and then Mulder having to explain to a pudgy Australian man who's a lizard monster were creature that human beings sometimes get born into the wrong body and feel that they have to. They don't fit the gender they were born with or assigned with. And the monster not understanding, and turns out that the people being killed, one was by accident because he ran into the lizard monster spikes, and the others were all by a psychotic animal shelter keeper, which Scully tracks down in the meantime. And it just makes me sad. The entire episode, it just made me just go, oh no. Mulder, of all people, doesn't know how to work a camera app in order to explain why they couldn't take any proper pictures of the monster. So he takes like one up close in his nostril, 50 flashes in a row. It's just so painful. I was like, I really hope the next episode is better than this, because fuck me. Oh yes. The fourth episode is called Home Again. And apparently the episode Home was with the cannibal monsters, if I'm not mistaken, which is how I remember those. So a lot of people were expecting the cannibal monsters. Nope, we're in Philadelphia. And again, this episode is actually not too bad. So that makes episode 2 and episode 4 the episodes I really liked in this series. Episode 4, basically it boils down to a mysterious serial killer in a vague sense of Jason or Michael Myers with a band-aid on his nose, who lives in a trash compactor. He literally lives in a trash compactor. Kills people that threaten the homeless. That's a very strange concept, but it's the X-Files. So it had one of those, soft music, Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream kind of things set to graphic violence, and I'm a sucker for those kind of things. I'm like, the music doesn't fit what's going on the screen. Just like in Face Off. So, no real bad words about that one. Then, I already know what the fifth one is. The fifth one is called Babylon. And I didn't know it was called Babylon, but in hindsight, it's a relatively clever name. It features Muslim terrorists in the most cliche way you could portray Muslim terrorists. There's no twist to this. It's just the Muslim terrorists. Muslim terrorists blowing things up. Be like, just showing the Nazis during Nazi Germany, except for the fact that not all Muslims are terrorists, and all Nazis were Nazis. But, thin plot aside, Mulder and Scully meet two people working for the FBI. One of them wants to join the X-Files Bureau. He's called Agent Miller. He's got short brown hair and is obviously like a similar character to Agent Mulder. Mulder, the connection is obvious. And he has a ginger colleague lady who's a skeptic doctor scientist called Agent Einstein. Seriously, you couldn't come up with a better name than Einstein. Not like Scalp, Savage, anything that starts with an S. Just no Einstein. Perhaps Curie would have been a nice one. Einstein, Agent Einstein, just to make sure you know that she's the clever one, or the scientist one. they're not bad characters. It's just that Einstein. So in order to, one of the Muslim terrorists that blew up this building is still alive in a vegetative state. All the white people are being shown as like, oh, these Muslims, they don't belong here. But then they turn out to be right because the Muslims were terrorists. So the vegetative comatose Muslim terrorist boy is obviously swept away in the big mean words of the bigger Muslim terrorist. Because his mum shows up and she's sad and she says this. So in order to find out something, I forgot what exactly, why they led to this, Agent Mulder gets Agent Einstein to give him mushrooms. Unbeknownst to him, this is a placebo. But before we go into that, we're all under the impression, the viewer included, that Mulder is doing shrooms. This leads to the absolute worst scene in this entire season. Included the entire weremonster thing. Mulder is fucking high off his face. Dances to Billy Ray Cyrus's Don't Break My Heart. Dresses up a little bit like Kid Rock. At one point he literally is going with these big badges on his fingers, you know, like some rappers may have had, or I'm not particularly up to date with when this was, and they're labelled mushroom. Mushroom, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? And Skinner is there and Mulder wins the contest, and thank fuck the scene changes. But then he ends up on this Greek myth inspired boat where people are in black cloaks inspired by Charon or however you wish to pronounce it, the ferryman of the River Styx. And they're rowing and you're hearing this voice that sounds vaguely like Fat Albert. Hey, hey, hey! And this voice is singing row, 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 and I lost the lyrics, but it's something like row your sins away. And one of the guys is there. I lost the name. Lone gunman. I was going to say horseman. One of the lone gunmen is the whipper on the boat because everybody has to be whipped. And then Mulder sees the Muslim terrorist, and he doesn't understand him, hence Babylon, I think. But he remembers the words that get spoken to him, right? And the Muslim terrorist boy is being held in his arms by his mother in a very maiden Mother Mary holding her son Jesus. Chris Carter wrote this episode, the creator of the X-Files. So then he wakes up from the coma and Mulder remembers Babylon, the word Babylon, and the Arabic. I'm not sure if it was Arabic, might have been a different language, so I've forgotten it, or I've not been paying attention very properly. If it's a different language, feel free to correct me. The word for hotel. So it's Hotel Babylon, which is a hotel in the city. And of course, the evil Muslim terrorists are there, about to blow the thing up. And they stop them. But Jesus Christ, that mushroom scene, absolutely atrocious. And I'm not really the person to just say something is shit because it is shit, but I have no words for it. And then comes the last episode, My Struggle Part 2. And I said about the first episode, My Struggle, it's an info dump. It was made to get everybody up to speed with the entire series of X-Files. And then we end up with Scully doing the same thing, except from her perspective, including the first episode, My Struggle. Who thought this was a good idea? Who thought I'm going to spend another 5 minutes telling basically the exact same story? Joel McHale shows up again. I remembered his name. He's basically still Jeff Winger with a YouTube channel. The Earth is flat. The Earth is flat. Chemtrails are real. Chemtrails are actually real though. The Earth isn't flat in the X-Files, but chemtrails are real. An aluminum kind of gas is being spread across the atmosphere in order to activate a government genome which has been implanted in 90% of the populace, and only the few selected get to survive. And of course these have all been chosen by the cigarette smoking man, but what we see is people talking. It's the entire episode, it's just people talking. Mulder fights a dude, and then people talking, people talking, people talking, and we don't, and Mulder gets sick, and Miller gets sick, and Einstein gets sick, and Einstein and Scully do tests, and they don't achieve anything. The finale doesn't achieve anything. It's your big comeback to TV, and you ended on a cliffhanger, not having done anything. The cliffhanger just fucks up everything the first episode, My Struggle, and the second episode tried to make clear. Like, it wasn't aliens, it was government. But then it turns out to be aliens. With Independence Day lasers. And you ended on a cliffhanger. That one. This is my personal opinion. This is my review. I liked the second episode. I forgot the name, but whatever. I liked Home Again, but I didn't like the overarching plot, which it only was 2 episodes. I didn't like the third episode. I didn't like the 5th episode. It was basically, I wouldn't suggest watching this as a whole series. Just look up episodes 2 and episodes 4. I'm really, you know me, you watch me. If you watch me, I usually rant and rave and I love everything and everything is the best in the entire world, but right now, this finger right here. Right. I said a couple of weeks ago I had a different kind of subject I wanted to cover, so maybe I'll do that to try and get some of my my intelligence back, because it's not going to happen with the X-Files.
Shutdown initiated.